Hello everybody, I'm John, this is JP Strategic Investments, and today I'm going to go over Peter Evans' presentation at the National Sports Forum Summer Summit. Now this video was just posted recently on their YouTube channel, so if you want to go check that out, which if you're invested in Patriot One technologies, I would definitely recommend, you can check out the full video on their YouTube channel. In this video, I'll just be going over some key points that I thought were interesting, including some possible improvements coming to MSG and some hints at maybe what they might be charging for the MSG lane. So I'll get into it right here. The first thing that I want to go over is something that Peter said about some maybe future improvements coming to MSG.
Lots of great use cases for this, right? These can be overt, they can be covert, they can be mobile. You can move them inside the venue, outside the venue, in very lightly cluttered environments, in heavy cluttered environments, indoors, outdoors, all sorts of things for live entertainment venues, stadiums, sports complexes, theaters, these kinds of things. And as we think more and more about what's going on in society, you can see the same sort of technology applying itself to things like manufacturing, distribution, schools, these kinds of things. But for this forum, for the NSF, let's keep focused on stadiums, live entertainment, and things like that.
So there were a couple things here that Peter mentioned and that are on the slide behind me that I think is the first time being publicly announced as features of the MSG platform. So if we take a look here, it says on the second line here for use cases, right here, mobile and portable. Up until now, the MSG platform has been something that's really secured to the ground. Pretty much where you install it is where it's staying. So this was actually one of the cons that I mentioned and one of the disadvantages of the MSG platform compared to Evolve Express. Now, if they're going to have a portable, or if they already do have a mobile or portable MSG platform, that means that that is no longer an advantage of Evolve Express over the MSG platform. And honestly, I think this is a great idea because that is kind of a huge disadvantage to really only be able to place it there. It's kind of permanently there and you can't really move it around. Now, if you have, let's say there's, bad weather outside, cold weather, you can just move it inside. If maybe you want to use it in one entrance for one event and you want to kind of move it around for another event, that's definitely something you can do. We'll have to see exactly how portable this is and kind of what future announcements we'll get. I would imagine if they're talking about it here, we'll probably get a little bit more information in the upcoming webinar, which I don't think the date has been announced, but it should be sometime in September. So that to me was a big improvement there. Also right next to that, single, dual, and multi-lane. Again, as far as I'm aware, so far, Patriot One only has a single facing lane. So each lane needs to be comprised of two towers, and each of the two towers can only face one direction. So for example, if you wanted to do two separate lanes, you couldn't just have 1, 2, 3 towers and have a lane in between each one because the middle one could only face one direction. Now, if they're saying we have kind of dual lane or multi-lane setups, they're probably having a tower in the middle there that can now face in both directions. So you could set up, let's say, 4 MSG towers, and now in the space between each one, have a lane. So instead of when you want 3 lanes, using 6 towers, 2 for each one, you could create 3 lanes by only using 4 towers. Now again, we'll have to see exactly what the details of this are when they announce them, but if I was Patriot One and I was making a multi-lane product, that's exactly how I would do it. And I'm pretty sure he said they could significantly shrink those down, so I don't see why you couldn't fit one set of sensors facing one way and one set of sensors facing the other way within one of those towers and just make it a multi-directional tower. So you just place one kind of single facing tower on one end, a multi-facing tower in the middle, and then another single facing tower on the side, and now you have 2 lanes only using 3 actual towers. So that's another improvement that I don't think we've actually heard about, that it looks like they're either hinting at or kind of announcing here. So that'll definitely be a question if it's not addressed in the webinar just in the initial part that I'll definitely be submitting for the Q&A. So those look like some pretty major improvements there for Patriot One. One more thing with the multi-lane, not only does that reduce the amount of towers, just that being an advantage there, but think about the space that could save, right? Because if you are trying to fit 2 lanes into one area, if you have to use 4 towers then you're taking up a lot more space than if you're having to use one tower. You know, not a huge amount, but you're probably at least got a foot there of a difference that it's taking up. And if you have different kind of tighter areas, that could be a big advantage there. So that's pretty exciting there, and I'm pretty excited to hear a little bit more of those hopefully in the upcoming webinar. Now the next thing that I want to talk about is what I have behind me here. There were two actual case studies, Peter called them, that they talked about in this presentation, or that he talked about in this presentation. So the first case study was a 34,000 person spectator stadium. So you're talking maybe on the larger side for an NBA stadium, or very, very small for a kind of college football stadium or something like that. So they don't actually say which stadium it is, or you know, any kind of details about that. But what they do give here is the current situation. So right now you can see that stadium currently uses 62 walk-through metal detectors, 172 staff per event, the average time to walk through 7.8 seconds, and a variety of other metrics there. And then on the right side is what it would take with Patriot One's product. So only 18 MSG lanes, 23 staff, so it's a huge drop down in staff there, and 91% spectator pass-through, only 9% spectator or secondary screening. The biggest thing there though, look at the cost savings. Annual costs in the current situation, $442,000. Those costs drop by pretty much over $200,000 there. That's essentially cutting in half the costs, and look at this. Increase annual sales by 1.8 million. Now, I'm pretty sure what they did there is essentially just one game, and they probably just extrapolated those numbers. So it may not be like a dead-on 100% accurate comparison, but probably pretty close, or as close as they can get there. And for me, this kind of gives us a little bit of an idea of how much they might be charging for these things. And I'll get into that in a second. We can't really nail down some things, but at least it gives us some parameters to kind of compare to things later on. The next thing that they talked about, or the next thing that Peter talked about, was a 5,000 person theater. Another comparison here, 4 walk-through metal detectors, and 4 MSG lanes. Peter said this was kind of a tighter space, so not really a big difference in the amount of lanes that they're using there, but again, a huge decrease in the staff, so 26 down to 7 to 9 depending on the event, and going from 598,000 down to 95,000 in the cost. That is a huge difference there. So this is, if this is something, I hope and I would think this is something that they're showing to customers. Obviously, whoever he was presenting this to was a little bit more on the marketing side. If you guys didn't listen to the actual video, basically most of the people attending this specific event, more on the marketing side of the business. But again, if you're presenting them with this ROI analysis, even the marketing guys are going to be interested in that. But again, with the cost savings here, it's really hard to argue with. So I'm going to do, you know, a little bit more analysis, a little bit more in-depth thinking about all of these numbers, and do some comparison here. So even though we're really not able to get an accurate estimate on the price for the MSG lanes from these numbers, it does give us some nice parameters to maybe compare to future case studies and future earnings reports that they come out, and help us build better estimates. And again, as I said in my live stream, I'm putting together a chart of kind of my estimates. I'll probably show that to you guys after we get the next earnings report, and I'm really able to make those as accurate as I can, and to the point of accuracy that I'm confident enough to kind of show you guys what my estimates are. So if you have any questions on this, let me know. Those are kind of my main thoughts on this video, the main things that I saw. Hopefully, again, we'll get some more information on those MSG features in the webinar that should be coming out later this month. And maybe we'll even get some customer announcements. But other than that, I will see you guys next time. Have a great day.